The ancient data core gleamed under the harsh lights of the excavation site. Dirt from thousands of years clung to its metallic surface as Director June carefully brushed away the last bits of soil. His team of 5 archaeologists gathered around, their breathing shallow with anticipation. "Is it operational?" Technician Minna asked, adjusting her protective gloves. June nodded slowly. "Against all odds, it appears to be. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database." They had been digging on this remote planet for 3 standard months. The Nexari Science Council had almost pulled their funding twice, believing the planet to be just another dead world. But something in the old star charts had caught June's attention, an anomaly that suggested this unremarkable planet might hold secrets. Professor Dae, the oldest member of the team, ran his scanner over the device. His eyes widened. "This technology predates our earliest records. If my readings are correct, this artifact is over 500,000 years old." "Impossible," whispered biologist Suk. "No known civilization existed that far back." Technician Hyun carefully connected their universal interface to the ancient device. His fingers moved with precision despite his obvious excitement. "The connection protocols are adapting. I think it's accepting our input." A soft hum filled the air as the data core activated. The team stepped back instinctively as a blue light emerged from its center, expanding outward to form a 3-dimensional projection. The hologram stabilized, showing bipedal creatures with no scales, no protective plating, and soft-looking external tissue. "What are they?" Geologist Wook asked, reaching toward the image but stopping short of touching it. The hologram shifted, displaying symbols and glyphs that flowed across the projection. The team's translation software worked frantically to decode the unknown language. "Humans," Dae read aloud as the first translations appeared on their screens. They called themselves humans. More images appeared, structures reaching into skies, vehicles moving through space, and vast cities spanning continents. The translation continued streaming. Records of the third age of human expansion. Star date 42,503. This archive contains the history and achievements of humanity for the preservation of knowledge. "I've heard that word in old legends," Suk said quietly. "Humans were supposed to be myth, stories told to children about the first space travelers." The hologram shifted again, displaying star maps. Hundreds, then thousands of worlds lit up across familiar star clusters. That's the entire Orion arm," Jum said in disbelief. "Are we to understand these humans controlled all those worlds?" The data continued flowing, showing more images of the strange creatures. They appeared physically weak compared to modern species, no natural armor, limited strength, and vulnerable to environmental hazards. Yet the technology displayed in the records surpass even current Nexari capabilities. "Look at these energy conversion methods," Hyun said, his voice trembling with excitement. "And these spatial manipulation theories. We've only theorized such techniques." Suddenly, the hologram zoomed in on a particular planet. The team gasped collectively as they recognized the continents and oceans, though in a slightly different configuration than the world beneath their feet. "This can't be," Wook whispered. The translation appeared. "Earth. Homeworld of humanity. Cradle of human civilization." June looked down at the ground beneath him, then back at the hologram. "We're standing on their home planet, the legendary Earth. But where did they go?" Minna asked, looking around at the barren landscape visible through their shelter's transparent walls. "A species doesn't just disappear." The data core hummed louder, and the hologram shifted to display a final message. "To those who find this record, we were here. We seeded the stars. We watched still." As the message faded, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. Lights began to appear in the soil around their excavation site, forming patterns that spread outward for as far as they could see. "Director," Hyun called out, pointing to his scanner. "Something's happening beneath us. Energy readings are spiking everywhere." June looked at his team, then back at the ancient data core still glowing with blue light. "I think," he said slowly, "we just woke something up. Something that's been waiting a very long time to be found." In the distance, a structure began to rise from the ground, shaking off millennia of dirt and vegetation. The forgotten legacy of humanity was revealing itself at last. The rising structure stopped at 30 meters tall, gleaming despite its age. It was shaped like a perfect pyramid with smooth sides that reflected the planet's setting sun. Director June led his team toward it, their equipment scanning continuously. "No detectable energy weapons," Technician Hyun reported, "but there's a massive power source inside." "Stay alert," June instructed. "Remember, we're dealing with technology from a species that's been gone for 500,000 years." As they approached, a doorway silently appeared in the pyramid's side. Inside, soft lights activated automatically, revealing a vast chamber filled with displays and strange machines. "It's responding to our presence," Professor Dan noted. "The systems must have some form of awareness." The central platform in the room lit up as they entered. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy materialized, with thousands of stars highlighted in different colors. All these points were human worlds, biologist Suk said, reading the data streaming across her scanner. They had settlements across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. How could a species achieve so much yet vanish completely from historical records? Geologist Wook wondered. The answer came unexpectedly. The floor beneath them suddenly displayed scrolling text in their own language. Humanity did not vanish. Humanity chose to hide. "It's communicating directly with us," Minna whispered. More text appeared, accessing historical archives, displaying human evolutionary and technological path. The room darkened, and images surrounded them. Primitive humans struggling to survive on ancient Earth, then slowly developing tools, agriculture, and eventually early technology. The progression continued at an increasing pace: electricity, flight, digital systems, and then a rapid acceleration toward advanced sciences. "Look at their physical characteristics," Suk pointed out. "No natural defenses, minimal strength compared to modern species, vulnerability to radiation and environmental extremes. Yet they compensated with their technology." The display showed humans creating artificial habitats, terraforming planets, and eventually modifying their own bodies to survive in hostile environments. "They weren't naturally suited for space exploration," Jun observed, "but they adapted themselves and their surroundings instead." The timeline continued advancing, showing increasingly sophisticated technologies. The team watched in amazement as humans developed dimensional engineering, consciousness transfer methods, and energy manipulation systems that defied current scientific understanding. "Some of these technologies shouldn't be possible," Hyun said, frantically taking notes. "They're manipulating fundamental forces we can barely detect, let alone control." Professor Day studied the displays with intense focus. According to these records, humans reached a decision point about 500,000 years ago. They had discovered something that frightened them, some kind of cosmic threat. The room displayed a new series of images: massive energy shields being constructed around star systems, planets being moved to more defensible positions, and enormous cloaking fields that could hide entire regions of space. They were hiding, Minna realized, not just themselves, but whole sections of the galaxy. "But why?" Wook asked. Before anyone could speculate further, the floor beneath them transformed into a transport platform. They descended deeper into the Earth, eventually emerging in an even larger chamber. This one contained thousands of stasis pods arranged in concentric circles. "Are these humans?" Jun asked, approaching the nearest pod. The answer appeared in text before them. "These are the seeds, the caretakers, the guardians of what remains." The pod Jun stood before activated, its surface becoming transparent. Inside was not a human, but something else, a being with a mixture of features, some recognizably humanoid, others distinctly alien. "Genetic engineering on an unprecedented scale," Suk breathed, scanning the pod. These beings were created by humans. More text scrolled across the floor. When humanity faced extinction, they created new species to preserve their legacy. Species designed to thrive in environments humans could not. Species with specific traits needed to continue their work. The final message appeared slowly. Nexari genetic profile. 82% match to human design template 12K conclusion. You are their children. You are their legacy. The team stood in stunned silence as the implications became clear. The most advanced civilization in their historical records had not evolved naturally, but had been engineered by these ancient humans. Director Minna said quietly, pointing to a previously dark section of the chamber that was now illuminating. I think there's more. In the newly lit area stood a single stasis pod, different from the others. Its surface was already transparent, revealing a figure inside that made them all freeze in place. Is that? Hyun couldn't finish his sentence. Yes, Jun whispered. That's a human. And I think it's waking up. The stasis pod hissed softly as its front panel slid away. The team stepped back, watching with a mixture of fear and fascination as the human inside opened its eyes. It was male, with pale skin and dark hair, appearing much smaller than they had expected, barely reaching Jun's shoulder. Welcome to Earth Sanctuary 7, the human said in perfect Nexari, his voice steady despite having been in stasis for what must have been millennia. I am Keeper Jin. How do you speak our language? Professor Day asked, his voice trembling slightly. Jin stepped from the pod, his movements fluid and natural. I don't. The translation matrix in this facility is converting my words. I'm actually speaking an ancient human language called Korean. Jun moved forward cautiously. Are you actually human? A biological human from 500,000 years ago. Jin smiled. In appearance only. My consciousness is an artificial construct, but this body is genetically human, created to interact with visitors when needed. He gestured around the chamber. There are 50 such keepers scattered across the galaxy, waiting at key sanctuary sites. The facility lights brightened, revealing the true scale of the underground complex. It extended for kilometers in every direction, filled with technology and biological containment systems. What is this place? Biologist Suk asked, scanning everything her equipment could detect. A seed vault, Jin replied. A repository of Earth life, human knowledge, and the truth about your origins. He walked to a central console and activated it with a touch. Humanity didn't disappear. They transcended physical form. Holographic displays activated, showing humans undergoing a strange transformation, their bodies dissolving into pure energy, their consciousness merging with something greater. They evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, Jin continued. But before leaving this plane of existence, they recognized their responsibility to the galaxy they had shaped. Responsibility? Hyun questioned. Humans had been engineering life for thousands of years, Jin explained. Creating species adapted to specific worlds, each with unique traits and abilities. Your people, the Nexari, were among their final and most successful creations. Mina's scanner suddenly beeped loudly. Director, I'm detecting biological signatures throughout this facility. Millions of them, in stasis. Jin nodded. The sanctuary contains genetic samples of every Earth species, including original human DNA. It also houses the templates for all human-created species, the Nexari, the Taurians, the Volsci, and hundreds more. Are you saying all intelligent life in our galaxy was created by humans? Wook asked incredulously. Not all, but most, Jin corrected. Humans found a galaxy with sparse life and enormous potential. They became its gardeners, cultivating and protecting biodiversity across thousands of worlds. Jin led them to another section of the facility where massive screens displayed images of celestial threats, massive energy storms, predatory cosmic entities, and space-time anomalies. Before their transcendence, humans discovered threats to all life in this galaxy. threats they couldn't defeat through conventional means. Their solution was twofold: transcend to a higher plane of existence where they could act as guardians, and create diverse species that could eventually join them in protecting the galaxy. So humans still exist, just in another form? June asked. Jin's expression became solemn. They exist between dimensions now, watching over their creations. The transcended humans shield this galaxy from threats you cannot perceive. Suddenly, the air in the chamber shimmered. A presence filled the room, not visible, but undeniably there. The team felt a gentle touch in their minds, conveying emotions that weren't their own: pride, hope, and protective care. "That's," Sook whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Yes," Jin confirmed. "The Guardians are acknowledging you. This is the first time in 7,000 years that they have directly made contact with a physical species." The presence withdrew as quickly as it had appeared. The team looked at each other, forever changed by the experience. "Your discovery of this sanctuary was not an accident," Jin explained. "The Guardians guided your research, subtly influencing your findings. Your people have reached a developmental stage where you're ready for the truth." "What happens now?" June asked, still trying to process everything they had learned. Jin's face grew serious. "Now you face the trials of ascension. Tests to determine if your species is ready to join the Guardians as protectors of life. If you succeed, you'll be shown how to guide other species toward the same path." The floor beneath them shifted, revealing a new passage leading deeper into the earth. "The first trial awaits," Jin said, gesturing toward the opening. "Are you ready to discover what humanity truly intended for your species?" The team looked at each other, nodded in silent agreement, and followed Jin into the unknown depths. The passage led the team into a vast circular chamber with 7 doors arranged around its perimeter. Each door bore a symbol: knowledge, compassion, courage, adaptation, unity, creation, and balance. "The 7 virtues of humanity," Keeper Jin explained. Before their transcendence, humans identified these as the qualities that enabled their survival and evolution. Each door leads to a trial that will test your understanding of these principles. Will we face these trials as individuals or as a team? Director Jun asked, studying the symbols. "Both," Jin replied. "Some challenges require individual strength, others collective wisdom. The Guardians will observe your approaches and decisions." Professor Dai stepped forward. "Which should we attempt first?" Jin gestured to the doors. "The choice is yours. That itself is part of the test." After brief discussion, the team chose the door marked with knowledge. It opened silently, revealing a room filled with incomprehensible technology. At its center stood a holographic representation of a human DNA strand, but with sections clearly modified or enhanced. "Your challenge," Jin announced, "is to determine which genetic modifications humans applied to themselves and which they incorporated into the Nexari genome." Biologist Sook moved toward the display, her eyes wide. "We need to identify our own inherited traits and understand why they were chosen," Jin added. "Humans carefully selected which aspects of themselves to preserve in each created species." The team worked together, analyzing the complex genetic structures. Hours passed as they discovered surprising connections between human and Nexari biology. "This radiation resistance," Hyun pointed out, "it wasn't natural to humans. They engineered it for space travel, then built it into our base genome." "And our enhanced visual spectrum," Minna added. "Humans could only see a narrow range of light naturally." As they completed their analysis, the hologram shifted to show a complete evolutionary path from original humans to modern Nexari. The knowledge trial was complete. The courage door led to a different challenge. Each team member entered a separate simulation where they faced individual fears without knowing they were in a virtual environment. Jun found himself alone on a ship losing oxygen. Wook experienced an earthquake that matched a childhood trauma. Sook faced a hostile alien species without weapons or technology. One by one, they overcame their challenges, discovering inner resources they hadn't known they possessed. When they reunited, they found themselves changed, more confident, more aware of their own strength. Humans were physically weaker than most species they created, Jin explained after the trial. They compensated with exceptional courage and adaptability. The Unity trial proved most difficult. The team was presented with a simulated interspecies conflict between Nexari and Taurians, traditional rivals in their region of space. They had to find a resolution that benefited both sides while preserving cultural identities. "I don't understand," Wook said in frustration after several failed attempts. "There's no perfect solution to this conflict." Jin nodded. "That's the point. Humans excelled not at finding perfect solutions, but at finding workable compromises all parties could accept." This insight shifted their approach. Instead of seeking ideal outcomes, they worked toward sustainable, imperfect ones. The simulation gradually stabilized as they applied this human philosophy. The balanced trial presented a dying ecosystem. They needed to identify which elements to save when not everything could be preserved. The creation trial challenged them to design a new species adapted to an extreme environment. Each test revealed more about human thinking and values. By the final trial, compassion, the team was exhausted but enlightened. They faced a scenario where they needed to decide whether to share advanced technology with a less developed species, knowing it could either save them or lead to their destruction. There's no way to be certain of the outcome, Jun realized. We have to make this choice based on faith in their potential. Just as humans did with us, Dai added quietly. After completing all 7 trials, they returned to the central chamber. Jin stood waiting, his expression solemn. "You have completed the trials of ascension," he announced. "Few species have succeeded in all 7 challenges." "Did we pass?" Minna asked hesitantly. "That is not for me to judge," Jin replied. "The Guardians have been watching. They will deliver their verdict." The air in the chamber began to shimmer once more. This time, the presence that filled the room felt stronger, more defined. A voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere spoke directly into their minds. "You have shown us that our faith in your potential was not misplaced. The time has come for the return." The chamber walls dissolved around them, replaced by a void filled with stars. The team found themselves standing on what appeared to be solid ground, yet nothing visible supported them. Streams of light flowed through the starscape, connecting distant points in complex patterns. "Where are we?" Minna whispered, instinctively moving closer to the others. "We are everywhere and nowhere," responded a voice that seemed to come from the light itself. "This is the dimension where we exist now, between the physical universe and what lies beyond." The streams of light converged before them, forming a vaguely humanoid shape that shimmered with energy. Other light beings joined it until 7 figures stood before the Nexari team. "We were once like you," said the first figure, bound to physical form, limited by time and space. "We were the Transcendence Council, the first humans to evolve beyond matter. For 500,000 years, we have watched over the galaxy." Another light being continued, "protecting it from threats beyond your comprehension, guiding the development of the species we created." Director Jun stepped forward. "Why reveal yourselves to us now? Why choose the Nexari?" The light beings moved closer, their energy warming the space around the team. "Because you have reached a critical point in your development. The galaxy faces new dangers that we cannot combat alone." Images appeared in the void around them. Massive cosmic entities feeding on stars, tears in spacetime that threatened entire systems, and strange dark energy that consumed all it touched. "We created the Nexari with specific traits," a third light being explained. "Your natural ability to perceive patterns, your intuitive understanding of quantum relationships, your capacity for both logical and emotional reasoning. These qualities make your species uniquely suited to join us as guardians." Professor Da looked troubled. "Are you saying our entire evolutionary purpose was to serve as your assistants?" The light beings pulsed, conveying what felt like gentle amusement. not assistants, successors. Humans always intended to step aside when our children were ready. That time approaches. Keeper Jin, who had accompanied them into this strange dimension, nodded in understanding. The guardians cannot maintain their vigil forever. Even transcended beings eventually seek final peace. We offer you a choice, said the first light being. Representatives of your species may join us in transcendence now, learning the ways of guardianship directly. Others must return to physical space, carrying limited knowledge of what you've learned to prepare your civilization. The team looked at each other, the weight of the decision heavy on their shoulders. If some of us stay, what happens to them? Biologist Suk asked. They will shed physical form, joining the collective consciousness of guardians. They will gain knowledge spanning millions of years, but lose their individual existence as you understand it. After intense discussion, the team reached a decision. Dai and Suk volunteered to remain, while the others would return to share what they had learned. We accept your terms, Jun said, his voice steady despite the emotion he felt. Professor Dai and biologist Suk will join you. The rest of us will carry your message back to our people. The light beings surrounded Dai and Suk. As the team watched, their colleagues' physical forms began to shimmer and dissolve, transforming into pure energy that merged with the light streams. For a brief moment, Jun felt their consciousness touch his, their excitement, their wonder, and their farewell. Return now. The Guardians instructed the remaining team members. Tell your people what you have learned, but selectively. Not all are ready for the full truth. How do we know what to share? Technician Hyun asked. You will know, came the simple reply. The trials have prepared you. The starscape began to fade around them. Before they fully returned to physical space, the first Guardian spoke one final message. Remember, humans did not create your species to rule or control, but to continue what we began. The galaxy needs guardians who understand both physical existence and transcendent potential. That balance is your inheritance and your responsibility. The team found themselves back in the underground chamber on Earth. Dai and Suk were gone, but each remaining team member now wore a small pendant, a crystalline device containing carefully selected knowledge approved for sharing. What do we tell the Nexari Confederation? Geologist Wook asked as they made their way back to their ship. Director Jun looked at the night sky visible through the pyramid's open doorway. Somewhere among those stars, their former colleagues were learning to become guardians of all life. We tell them we are not alone, he said. We tell them that the ancient humans didn't disappear. They ascended. And now, they're inviting us to join them. As their ship lifted off from Earth, Jun felt a presence brush against his mind. A farewell from beings who had once been human, and from friends who were becoming something more. Until we meet again, he whispered to the stars. In this life, or the next.